The Performance of Grievance. There are people who say they want Scotland to be independent. They say it often, they say it loudly, they say it when Westminster does something cruel or reckless, which gives them many opportunities to say it. And they complain about London, they complain about the BBC, they complain about the House of Lords, the Treasury, the Supreme Court and the English newspapers. They complain about Scotland being ignored, they complain about Scotland being robbed, they complain about Scotland being mocked. Some of these complaints are justified, but complaint is not a strategy. It is not a plan. It is not organisation. It is not persuasion. It is not the slow and difficult work of winning over the people who remain uncertain. Complaint can become a habit. Then it becomes a performance. The performance is easy. Westminster plays the villain. Scotland plays the victim. The audience already knows when to cheer and when to boo. Nothing changes, but everyone knows their lines. The performer does not have to explain how independence will work. He does not have to speak about currency, trade, pensions, energy, defence, or the institutions a new state will need. He does not have to persuade a cautious voter in Stirling, Aberdeen or East Kilbride. He only has to point south and say, "Look what they have done to us now." Then the crowd applauds. For some, the Scottish National Party has become part of this performance. It is no longer treated as a political party. A political party is a tool. It is judged by what it achieves. It is questioned when it fails. Its leaders are temporary. Its purpose is greater than its organisation. But the SNP is often treated like a football club. You support the team through victory and defeat. You defend the manager, you blame the referee, you hate the rival clubs more than you hate losing. When the team plays badly, you sing louder. This may be admirable in football. It is dangerous in politics. The SNP has held power in Scotland for many years. During that time, independence has not moved closer in any practical sense. There has been no agreed route to another referendum. There has been no sustained campaign capable of changing public opinion. There has been no serious preparation for the institutions of an independent state. There have instead been scandals, investigations, financial controversies, internal feuds, and failures of leadership. These things should concern anyone who wants independence. But to the loyalists, they are not warnings, they are attacks. Any criticism of the party is described as an attack on Scotland. Any criticism of its leadership is said to help the Union. Any demand for accountability is treated as betrayal. The critic must be a unionist. The former member must be bitter. The journalist must be corrupt. The other independence party must be a threat. The campaign group must know its place. This is how a movement becomes smaller while telling itself it is growing. A serious independence movement would welcome allies. It would understand that no single party owns the cause. It would make room for socialists and conservatives, Republicans and monarchists, members of the SNP, members of other parties and people who belong to no party at all. It would argue with them. It would disagree with them, but it would not deny that they were part of the same national effort. The Insecure movement does the opposite. It builds walls inside its own camp. It spends its strength fighting those nearest to it. It treats every new organisation as a rival and every independent voice as a danger. It would rather control a losing campaign than share a winning one. This is not loyalty to independence. It is loyalty to an institution. There is a difference. Independence is an idea about where political power should rest. The SNP is a political party formed to pursue that idea. The party exists for the cause. The cause does not exist for the party. When that order is reversed, independence becomes branding. The slogans remain, the flags remain, the conference speeches remain, the appeals for money remain, the promises remain, the progress does not. This arrangement suits more people than they will admit. It suits politicians who can blame Westminster for every failure while remaining secure in office. It suits party officials who can demand loyalty without demonstrating success. It suits commentators who can repeat the same arguments to the same audience. It suits activists who enjoy the feeling of resistance but fear the risks of change. independence, after all, would end the grievance. There would still be problems. There would be many problems, but they would be ours. Scottish ministers could no longer blame London for everything. Scottish institutions could no longer hide behind constitutional limits. The movement would have to become a government. It would have to make decisions and live with them. For some, the struggle is more comfortable than the destination. The grievance gives them identity. It gives them enemies. It gives them an explanation for disappointment. It gives them something to perform each day. Westminster acts, they complain. The SNP fails, they defend it. Another independence group appears, they attack it. A critic asks a question, they call him a unionist. Then they say, independence has never been closer. But independence does not come closer because people say it does. It comes closer when more people believe it is possible, safe, and desirable. It comes closer when difficult questions are answered. It comes closer when leaders are held to high standards. It comes closer when institutions are planned, alliances are built, and voters who once said no are treated with respect. It comes closer when the movement becomes larger than any party. That work is harder than grievance. It requires patience. It requires honesty. It requires the admission that mistakes have been made and time has been lost. It also requires courage, not the courage to insult Westminster. That is easy. Not the courage to defend the party. That is rewarded. It requires the courage to say that the vehicle has stalled, that the driver has failed, that loyalty to the destination may require changing both. A movement that cannot criticize itself cannot improve itself. A movement that cannot tolerate allies cannot build a majority. A movement that asks no questions will receive no answers. The independence movement does not need another performance. What it needs is leadership and a plan, but before all that, it needs to be honest with itself. Until the next time.